That's so true that clothes can be this source of such negative energy, and it is really transformative to develop a more positive relationship with what's in our closet. And I think that's really underestimated. Like, a lot of people assume that fashion is superficial and maybe thinking about our personal style is frivolous or whatever. But I like how you talk about style as more than just aesthetics, but that it really can influence our mindset and so many aspects of our lives. So, can you tell us more about that? Like, what you see as the power of style?
Yeah, I actually have a whole like Instagram rant post that I go on when I talk about this because I think this is actually really maybe damaging is a strong word, but this idea that style is frivolous, I think is one of the things that keeps us in some of our bad behaviors. Like, well, I can't think about it seriously. I can't take it seriously. It's shameful to take it seriously or to look really seriously at my spending. And so we are like, well, I shouldn't spend so much money on clothes. I'm going to restrict myself, but we don't really take a look at the underlying reasons because it's just clothes. It's just shopping. Like it's just a haha, girls go to the mall. Like we don't look at it really deeply. And um, I think that stops us from understanding how powerful it actually can be. And I think that the two things that I really want to talk about here are the ways that style is powerful just from like a human nature perspective and how style in a modern sense can really kind of help us navigate beauty standards and the world. um, we are social animals, we are social creatures, and we have we've always made art, we've always decorated ourselves, and we've always used clothes and style to uh, like make social judgments and make a social hierarchy. Like this is every culture does this in some way. We are visual creatures and we're social creatures. So of course we can talk about beauty standards and society and judgment, but like some of this is just human nature. And so of course you get a group of humans together, we make a culture, right? And we make cultural expectations and social norms. And that's stuff like, what does a hoodie mean? What does a doctor's coat mean? We associate things with that. We associate, in the West, white means purity, and in the East, in a lot of cultures, white is like a mourning color. So like we make these cultural meanings with clothes. And so that's a real way that we engage with each other. It's a real way that we engage with the world. And I think we're like, oh, it's just trends and fast fashion hauls and like girls shopping. Like I think we really lead how powerful that actually is and how important it is in our life and our culture. And again, like we can complain about society, and I think there's a lot of societal stuff around clothes that we should work to fix. And I also think that we're never going to not be like this. We're never going to not like use clothes as culture, religion, belonging, self-expression. Like we make meaning with clothes, and I think that's one of the reasons that it really matters. So I think the second reason that style is really powerful is that in a modern way, it really helps us navigate beauty standards. Um, you know, we know that there's a lot of impact in how we show up and like the way that people perceive us. And some of those are really negative, right? Like the way that you are perceived as a Black woman or a fat woman, or if you are gender nonconforming, what professional looks like. There are real advantages to that, and we can and should push back on those. And also, we can use clothes to help us feel, to armor ourselves, and to help us feel prepared to navigate those situations. There's a beauty journalist, Jessica DeFino. She talks a lot about this, and she says there are two ways to address the stranglehold of beauty standards, and one is by helping women better perform beauty, like to do it more easily, and an expanded perception of what is beautiful. And the second is by pushing for a future where beauty has no bearing on how women are treated. She says there are distinct social and economic advantages to performing beauty, and existing within a culture that pressures us to change our appearance. And so I think, we have to do, first layer is like, how do we do it for ourselves? And then the second layer is how do we interrogate our own stories and model for others a different way of being where beauty or clothes and that judgment is less important. But it's really hard to do that like second level work when we're still like stuck in, oh, how do I dress myself? Like, how do I feel good in my clothes? Um, so I think we do this work for ourselves first as like, well, how do I feel good? How do I navigate beauty standards? How do I show up in the room feeling like well dressed and like I know that people are perceiving me in this way? And then once we understand that, I think it's a little bit easier to be like, why do I care about this? Like, it's really hard to dismantle those stories when you're still stuck in them. And so there's kind
Mhm.
of like two layers. And this is what I mean when I say that we can use style as a way to navigate and, interrogate our stories, around beauty and capitalism and like all
Mhm.
that good stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, really interesting thinking about just how style informs so much. And I feel like we're starting to get into a little bit of like what you do as a style coach, but I would love for us to sort of clarify both for myself and the audience, what is the difference between a personal stylist versus a style coach?
Yeah. So the main difference is that I don't shop for my clients. As a style coach, I work with them more as a coach than on the style part. And I work with my clients to help them define their personal style, look at their shopping habits, learn to shop strategically, and look at their self identity. So we do a mix of style education. So that is the kind of the styling part. It's like fabrics, colors, fits, proportions. Like, how do you make clothes look the way you want them to look on your body? How do I decide what I even like? But we also do a lot of mindset and emotional support, unpacking our stories, a lot of coaching, a lot of like self reflection, habits, science. I love like brain science, behavior change. So we look at like personal values and stuff like that. And it's really teaching you the skills you need to incorporate how you want to show up, incorporate how you want to shop, not just like how to make outfits. So, you're really doing the work and I'm a guide. So, stylists, I mean, even other sustainable stylists, it's like, we're going to clean out your closet, we're going to go shopping, they're going to make you a lookbook. And often they make a commission on clothes. And so it's still like there's this focus on like being styled by someone. Like, they make the outfits for you and they tell you. It's like, even when they say like, I don't tell you how you should dress, they're still the ones that are kind of like, put these things together and like, here's the outfit and here's your lookbook. And so my focus is really like, how do I get my clients to learn how to do that for themselves so they never have to be reliant on me or anybody else in the future?